You're listening to the Paul Higgins Show, where ambitious tech consultants come to unlock their potential. After 18 years as a global leader, I launched several businesses, culminating in a successful exit. I'm sharing what I learned, plus what's working now from mentoring tech consultants. You will hear leaders within our industry to help you build a business you love that allows you to do what you want. If you are looking for immediate cash flow wins to fuel your growth, go to our free ebook at paulhigginsmentoring.com/roadmap. You've heard about ServiceNow, but you're not quite sure what it's like to be a partner there, and also how does ServiceNow complement other platforms, SaaS platforms like Salesforce. Hello, this is me, Paul, and welcome to the Paul Higgins Show, episode number 568. And in this podcast, we talk to Merv Small from Agiro about three key things. One is how he's gaining leads from ServiceNow and also what he's doing to get leads himself. Two, how ServiceNow as a platform can play well with other platforms, like I said, like Salesforce. And three is his experience with a blended team, having set up his own company, India, to handle all the development work for his growing ServiceNow business. Merv has over 18 years in application management. In the last 12 years, he's built a successful ServiceNow practice in Australia. His journey is one of huge interest in the fact that he started as a hip hop artist. And then he's, now emerged as one of the most credentialed and respected ServiceNow partners. And this led him to actually tell his story on the stage at Vegas in the Knowledge Conference this year in 2024. You can see Merv and I on our YouTube channel, Paul Higgins Mentoring. But just to let you know that the editing team had to work really hard because both Merv and I had some challenges with our internet over this. But we've done our best to bring, Merv and his wisdom to you. So what I'll do now is hand you over to Merv Small from agiro.com.au. Fantastic to have you here, Merv.
Great to be here, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I know we had a couple of tries. Unfortunately, I know you caught COVID for the second time and you weren't at your best, but I'm glad you are at your best today and can't wait to have you on. We got you on. I can't wait to ask you questions around ServiceNow and your business. But why don't we kick off with who your ideal client is and what problems you love to solve for them?
Absolutely, Paul. So I think that's almost a two-parter in terms of people, the clients that we talk to and problems that we solve. So the ideal client would be either someone that is looking to implement ServiceNow, we call obviously greenfields, or on the other side of the fence is someone that's had ServiceNow potentially for quite a while, looking at extending out the capability of the platform or really assessing and going, okay, how do I get more value from the platform? What else can I do? And it's not always about, hey, let's spend more money or let's build all these apps, but how do I realize value for what I've got now? So they're the two key customer types and size. We can go from small to medium, and we've got large multi-billion-dollar companies that we work with as well. So anyone in between in terms of size. Now, second part of your question, what problems do we solve and how do we help them? Again, it's really ServiceNow as a platform and as a ecosystem. It's a lot about teaching customers and the art of the possible, right? And going in, a lot of customers don't know what they don't know because the platform's so big. The platform is so vast, right? And there's so many different things you can do on it. There's so many problems you can solve. So it's all about just understanding the direction that you can take, the potentials that you do have, and then bringing that together and what I like to call the translation layer, right? So a customer will say, hey, we need to fix X. How do we do that? Taking all those business requirements, going, this is how it works in the platform, and then we go and move forward with best practice. That's ultimately the recipe, if you will, of what we do and how we support our customers.
And the mix between existing versus greenfield, what would that rough mix be?
At the moment, I would say about 70-30 for us. We've had some really great partner success stories with customers. My first customer that I got, we're still there, right? And we're still supporting them. We're still on the journey with them. And so we have those really nice, long-standing relationships, providing support, but also, like I said, building out new functionalities. And then along the way, we're picking up new customers and, we're helping them drive capability, automation, and efficiencies. But as we are as a company right now, we do have a lot of long-standing customers that we've been working for for a while, which is great. I mean, it's good to have, but it's also exciting to see the new customers that that we're bringing on and helping them as well.
Yeah, and then look, and just remind you, you're listening here to Merv Small, episode 568. Mainly we had Salesforce, NetSuite, Monday, Zoho partners on.
Yeah.
I think, well, yeah, I actually think you're the first ServiceNow partner on, which is great. Yeah, so, every SaaS has got a different channel model, right? So some are feed leads, some don't, etc. How does the ServiceNow channel model work?
Good question. It's a combination, right? I've been in the ServiceNow ecosystem for a very, very long time. I'm showing my age, but almost 12, 13 years, right? And I've seen the ecosystem, but I've seen the partner model obviously change and evolve, through that whole time. It's really about alignment, right? And where best does your partner company fit within certain, modules, technologies, obviously industry verticals and offerings. What ServiceNow does really well is align that with the right teams. We just happen to have grown into a partner that has a lot of higher ed experience, right? And we have a lot of BFSI, right? And so working with those teams and the supportive tech teams really, really helps us as a partner, but also helps them, right? Because we're able to that alignment, then go to customers together. And like I mentioned before, really showing that art of the possible, because they've got their customers asking them questions. They've got the customers going, hey, how's it worked with other customers? And then we come in and we go, this is what, we've done for other customers. This is what you could potentially do. And it's that real great synergy. And it works both ways, right? So ServiceNow will bring us into those conversations, obviously generally somewhat early on piece. We do demos, we do, high level discovery sessions and the rest of it. But then when we're talking to customers on the other side of the fence, we obviously bring them into the mix. We then tap ServiceNow on the shoulder and go, hey guys, we started this conversation. And then they come in and then they bring obviously a whole plethora of platform understanding. We work with the technical consultants that we sometimes join forces and we create proofs of concepts and all that sort of stuff. And so we've got a few AEs and TCs and ServiceNow that we work very closely with. And honestly, it's almost like an extension of our team. It's great, right? And every time there's an opportunity or deal that comes up, it's a little team. We get to the instance little team and we strategize and we work out, okay, this is the approach, this is what they want, and all the rest of it. I've really seen, back to my first point, I've really seen that really being pushed and nurtured within ServiceNow. It's not just you guys are a partner, we're the technology company, and let's just make it work. There's a real pragmatic steps to get to this point, and program has evolved. The incentives, the supports, the training. They've put a lot of time and effort into the teams that support partners. So back in the days, it was obviously smaller company. You had a level of support that's not even close to how it is now. You've got direct partner managers and partner leads and all that sort of stuff, which is great, right? Because as a partner, sometimes it can get to a point where there's a lot happening and you need those guardrails, right? To be able to go back to the vendor, to ServiceNow, and go, guys, what do we do here? What is the approach? Hey, customers asking X, Y, Z. Is this even allowed? Does that work within your, licensing model? And, they jump on it and they're like, yeah, this is the way we do it. And then, we work together to get there. So you're not just out there trying to, make things happen and exist by yourself. You've always got partner ecosystem to have your back and to support you, which is great, right? And it really helps, obviously, with partners on our journey, right? Relatively early on. Can't say we're a startup anymore, a scale up, but point is we're not a big machine, right? So any sort of support that comes our way is really, really helpful and appreciated.
And the percentage, so what of channel leads, so from the vendor, from sales, ServiceNow, what percentage of your leads would come from them?
Yeah, good question. So at the moment, I would say it's probably 60-40 odd, roughly. Yeah. I'm getting calls nearly every second odd week. We've got this customer, can you come in and have a chat? And like I said, vice versa, we've brought ServiceNow into conversation. So, I mean, off the top of my head, I would have to say 60-40. It might not be that accurate, but, there is a lot of, like I said, a lot of synergy between us and the AEs that we work with, hoping to extend the scope of who we're working with as well, across, because obviously very heavily focused in New South Wales and Victoria, but, there's other markets in Australia emerging and starting to get traction in that space. And so we want to be able to service those organizations and provide support. So it's about, getting the name out there and ultimately, proving ourselves, right? Getting the results on the board, getting the results for the customer, showing quality of delivery, and that's a win-win for everyone. So yeah, that's the plan. That's the goal.
And of that 60%, like if you got I don't know if you got any facts or just your intuition of, do those deals close? Is there a high close rate on those versus the 40% that you're sourcing yourself?
Great question. I would say it's at this point in time, obviously, given the economic climate, it's about the same, really. It's 50-50. That's probably as close as I'm going to get to a finger in the egg type guess. I'd say it's 50-50 with a lot of, and you've got to also look, if you're getting into the numbers and the details, you've also got to look at size. Size is a factor, right? The smaller type engagements and opportunities, quick sales cycle, we're closing them obviously more, right? The more bigger enterprise-wide, larger implementations, slower move, right? And so there's a weighting there as well between the two, right? So there's some 60-40, there's some small ones in the 40, there's some big ones in the 40, small ones in the 60, big ones. So it's a mix. I got to say it's a mix, and I would say it's 50-50. Yeah.
Okay, great. And of the 40, what are sort of the key strategies that you're doing to get your own leads?
One of the key things that has worked really, really well for us is personal contacts, right? And network. We've been able to actually grow the business quite quickly and, in touch wood, really appreciate it, large in such a short amount of time, just based on our personal networks. And it's a great question in terms of timing. Only just started looking into lead gen now because we've had so much opportunity and pipeline and delivery that we needed to do just based on those networks that it was like, well, there's no real point just doing lead gen to do lead gen right now when we don't have the capacity. It's a great problem to have, but it's still a problem. And we felt that we wanted to maintain and grow controlled way. We've been able to, like I said, establish some really large scale, long-term clients, which, becomes your base and your bread and butter. And now we're looking at, okay, we're doing great work in there. Team is growing. Let's look at lead gen. So, we've done, and we've got people in the team that have gone out and, created customer lists, obviously getting back to starting to do, LinkedIn type promotions. We got to refresh our website as well as part of that whole process. So there's a lot of sort of moving parts to it. But to answer your question directly, I would say lead gen is going to be the next cab off the rank. And that's either going to be through, those third-party companies that we've been interviewing and having a look at, or hiring someone full-time to do BDM and lead gen for us. And I would say we're in, September, almost October. So it doesn't make sense to jump into it now. People are starting to wind down. We're probably going to hit it in January.
That challenge comes up all the time. Do I build it in-house? Do I do it third party? And I don't think there's any right or wrong, but I do think that it really depends on the capability of the internal team.
Yeah.
If you're an owner listening to this and you're good at sales and marketing and that's your background, that's your strength, I think in-house makes sense. But if you're more of a technical owner that you only do it because you need to really have to do it, I think that's where it makes sense to bring in third party. And also third party, the benefit of that is they get to see cross the spectrum, right? So they're doing it. It's like you. The reason clients bring you in, they bring Merv in because he's seen ServiceNow across multiple industries, multiple clients, so he can bring that experience. No different with lead generation and outreach. But, from our experience, they can both work. And if you're listening here, who should I talk to in third parties? Just email me. Emails, Paul at paulhigginsmentoring.com, because I can give you a list of the people that we're using for our clients that are specific to this industry and only this industry. So that's great on leads. Now let's just talk a little bit about, ServiceNow and Salesforce. I'd just love to get your perspective. I know that, you and Agiro ServiceNow, but I know you got a sister company that focuses on Salesforce. And just tell me a little bit how the two platforms, ecosystems play well together.
The key thing in terms of that approach. So previous to starting Agiro, I was at Deloitte. Right? I was a director at Deloitte for a couple of years, and one thing that I learned there was the ability for a company like Deloitte to walk into a customer and go, "Don't worry so much about the technology. Tell us what your problems are, and tell us what the end state needs to be. We'll work out the technology. We'll fill in the blanks." Right. When I started Agiro, I wanted to be able to provide that same level of service. Right? I wanted to be able to holistically go in at an enterprise level and go, what are you currently using? What's your technology stack? And what do you want to do better and where are the gaps? Because it's not necessarily about going in and changing everything. Right. And so if a customer is using ServiceNow and a customer is using Salesforce and a customer is using whatever it is, it's not about going there and totally changing that. It's looking at, okay, where does each platform and solution play well? Yes. Where does it do its best work? And how can we then extend that out to be able to keep that extended? The key thing for me, Paul, is experience. Keep that experience consistent across that layer. Because I talk to a lot of customers that have all these systems and all this sort of stuff, and someone has to log in there. This whole swivel chair thing everyone knows about, and the data is not inconsistency. Where's your source of truth? All that sort of stuff, right? And it's really about taking a step back and going, okay, all right, well, maybe one platform's not going to solve it all. And that's, we all wish that we could have that silver bullet moment. But the reality is that ServiceNow does what ServiceNow does really, really well, best in breed. Salesforce does what Salesforce does really well, best in breed. And obviously the whole bunch of other applications that are in the Gartner segment, they're really, really good, right? And so our job holistically at the enterprise level is going, okay, well, what's going to be the best mix? Where's the synergies? And, to your point before, where's the synergies between ServiceNow and Salesforce? And the way I look at it is like, it's not about trying to compete. It's all about filling those gaps. It's all about ensuring that the customer is going to be able to have validity in data, be able to trust the data, which is key, right? Because again, your source of truth, where does that live? But ultimately, the one pain point that I hear a lot is the experience layer. When you're in an organization and you need to do a whole bunch of stuff and there's a lot of things happening, the easier that it is to access information, the easier that it is to consume data, the more efficient that you're going to be, regardless of the technology. Right? You could have the best app, but if it's really hard to get to, it's hidden somewhere on the intranet, or it's really clunky, doesn't matter how good the app is, right? It doesn't matter how many problems it solves. Your experience is bad. You're probably not going to want to use it. And people always find a way to circumvent it. Oh, I'm just going to call, or I'm just going to email. And then, you've spent all this money and you've built basically a virtual paperweight. Going into a company now and being able to look at the landscape and go, okay, guys, well, you're doing this, you're doing that. What's really going to be beneficial? And, it's also a journey of alignment as well. So it's not necessarily about, okay, the technology is be all and the end all. It's all about, okay, how is it really going to align with the business and how is it going to be able to provide value? Because putting in a gajillion dollar because it's the right thing to do isn't always going to be good for the business. It's that balance between the two and having a multi-technology approach and solution-driven. That's our methodology, right? At the end of the day, we provide a level of service to be able to go in and say, well, customer comes first. And we need to ensure that whatever solution we're putting in is going to drive that.
Yeah. And I think from our previous conversations that ServiceNow sort of is a land and expand in some ways. Like you go in and then other departments get to experience it and then it effectively expands.
It's interesting without trying to go too far back and turning this into a 3-hour podcast. But ServiceNow when it first came out was an enterprise-wide platform, right? Fred Luddy said we're going to solve all these problems, but the market dictated it that it went towards the ITSM application stack. That's where it sort of got its footing. For a very, very long time there, it was just known as an ITSM tool.
We've covered ServiceNow and the partnership, and you've been in it for 12 years, seen a lot of changes. We've covered around how it plays well with Salesforce and the role that it plays. We've covered how the entry point is ITSM and how that's expanded. And at the start, we sort of talked about leads. It's been a really good overview of running a ServiceNow practice. What I'd like to talk about now is a little bit about the teams. Tell me a little bit about the team, because I know that you use a blended team, i.e. on and offshore, and just tell me, what that's like, and also how did you come to a decision on using both on and offshore?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me answer that last question first. Again, going back to my Deloitte days in terms of seeing how that machine worked, and Deloitte has that blended model. They've got really large offshore delivery capability, and when I started the practice, it made a lot of sense to be able to leverage that, because it was a lot easier to get resources, just in terms of size and the amount of ServiceNow practitioners based in India. But also what we found was that we were really able to then aggressively offer a commercial model that was far more attractive than some of our other partners that were all onshore. That really gave us a differentiator, especially when we started, what's your USP?
Yes.
What makes you special? Everyone does ServiceNow. You can do ITSM, you can do XYZ, but we were like, we can do that, but we can do it very, very much cheaper than what the other competitors were doing. But also, we can guarantee the level of quality of service because we had that onshore capability to support it, right? So it wasn't an all offshore. That's who you're dealing with. Good luck. It was, we're onshore, we're engaged, we're in your offices as needed, but we've got a really, really high technical team. And interestingly enough, we were quite fortunate to get the Big Four developers from Big Four. We were ultimately this smaller version of your Big Fours, right? Because that's my background. Some of those developers had come from that. And so that was our USP, right? And that was the way that we were able to win the trust and really get our foot in the door. In terms of, the team and how we did it, we were quite fortunate to be able to actually build our own, or have our own entity, right? So having Agiro India that we owned. So it wasn't just us going, oh, we're going to, tap another offshore provider on the shoulder. They're going to help us. They're their own company. We don't have control of quality. We don't have control of resources. We don't have control of culture and all that sort of stuff. We didn't want to go that route because, again, what's the point? What's the USP? Why us? We own our offshore entity. So a company of our size was I don't think there was too many. I think that maybe we were the only one as a startup back then. So again, that was our ability to be able to walk into a customer and go, we manage the pipeline. We manage everything and we're responsible for it. That really ensures that the trust is built up front. It's not just being passed into a black hole and hope it gets developed. No, we ensure that it does. That has really helped us obviously build a foothold into the industry here, and it's been great to see the offshore team grow. We opened up our first offices in Bangalore. I'm trying to think now, it's 2022. So for me, starting the company and then being, walking in and seeing the logo on the wall for the first time was quite a moment. I'll be honest. It was quite a milestone to be able to say, look, we've got an office in India. We've got the team there. The team's great, really nice group of people. And the other key thing as well, Paul, I just want to add, it's not necessarily for me personally in terms of my journey about, we've got some really great senior guys and architects and the rest of it. It's what they call the freshers. It's the people that are just finishing university. It's the people that you see. And we've had so many come through, learn about ServiceNow, and now they're like developers. And you're just like, wow, it's so great to be able to see that. And the culture that we've built and the culture that I wanted to build in the company was that about enablement, support, and growth. And having that offshore capability really helps and accelerates that. And it just really reminds you why you do it, to be able to see how successful that offshore team has been. And it's great to be a part of, right? Just to step back sometimes and go, well, look at what these guys have done. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And look, I think that boutique model, plays really well. I've got a couple of Salesforce partners I work with where the same thing, that they've come from the Big Four. So they know how it works, but you can be a lot more customer responsive. You care more, but you can
Yeah.
also tap into the back end. So I think it's a really good model.
Right.
And it's certainly one that when I was in corporate, we used to look for companies like that versus, don't get me wrong, the Deloittes, et cetera, they do some brilliant work.
They had their place.
Yeah, they have their place. Correct. But if you want nimble, innovative, yes, I highly recommend Agiro and companies like that. Two other quick topics I want to cover before we go to the rapid fire. So one is AI. What's your view on ServiceNow and AI?
I was just at Knowledge in May, and they announced a whole bunch of new AI features. Some that have released in the Xanadu platform release that I think just happened 2 weeks ago, and some that are still in the pipeline. And I was like, I walked away, and my perception of AI in ServiceNow is that ServiceNow has shifted from just being a platform company to being a technology company.
Yes.
The way that they've embraced AI, the way that they're not just going, oh, AI is cool, it's the hot topic, let's just bolt it on. No, they are building the platform through AI, which is different to building the platform with AI. I think in terms of the stuff that I saw that they presented, I don't know if I have to talk about it too much. I guess it's public, but point is that I haven't seen some of those capabilities just out in the market in general. All right. So we're not just talking following here, we're talking leading. And honestly, if that's what they're doing now, like next year and following on, I think it's a very exciting space to be in. But the key thing here is your foundation in AI. If you do that right and you start to really ensure that what you're trying to achieve is underpinned rather than in parallel, who knows how far they can go. But honestly, that was so impressive. And take my ServiceNow hat on, just put a technology lens on. I was like, what? What is it? That's great. It's great. So I really, to answer your question, I think ServiceNow is going to be a market leader in this place, SaaS space, when it comes to leveraging AI and really pushing the boundaries of it.
Yeah. And there's lots of discussion in the media around when will we get payback from the investment in, and I completely get that, but I think you've just got to do it. If you're a number one player, you've got to take the risk and do it. That's what Zuckerberg's, he's on public record saying the same thing. You've got, so I think they're all got to do it, but I do think the people with the major platforms with the deeper pockets are going to do it well. And I think ServiceNow is certainly part of that. So the last question is, I know with ServiceNow and talking back in May with Knowledge, you're actually on stage and I know you've also done some university lecturing on ServiceNow. So just give us a quick snapshot of how that opportunity came up and, what happened.
Yeah, it's a great question. Again, not to turn this into a 3-hour podcast, I'll keep it as succinct as possible, Paul. But ultimately, my journey has been, I guess, not the typical IT journey. I was a hip hop artist before I got into ServiceNow. At a previous company, I was just handed the platform. They're like, hey, you do change management, ServiceNow does it. There you go. Okay, never had done coding, admin. Anyways, throughout that journey, I was afforded and was given so many opportunities through ServiceNow, literally changed my life, right? And so I just wanted to tell that story because I started to see ServiceNow really starting to add a focus around, hey, you can really build a career on ServiceNow. There's so many opportunities. I just thought that was me. So I reached out to ServiceNow and I said, guys, just a heads up. This is my story. I just wanted to let you guys know, just as a heads up. And I got contacted by the ServiceNow Rise Up team. And they said, wow, we really enjoy your story. We want to work with you. We want to be able to see how we can get that out. They invited me to speak at Knowledge this year, 2024. My first Knowledge was 2014. And it was my first tech conference. And I walked in and went, wow, this is a different world, right? Coming from the hip hop world, music and stuff like that. I'd never seen anything like that. I was never around the tech industry. And just to see that and see these people on stage. And then 10 years later, walk on stage myself, it was quite the moment, to be honest with you. It was a very special milestone for me. And again, just to share my story. And the most important part about it, Paul, and the reason why is to maybe change one person's life or perspective or attitude towards what they're trying to do in terms of a career. I had people coming up after and saying, hey, thank you for your story. This is, and I'm like, what's your story? And they would tell me, and then I was just like, wow, this is amazing. The effect and and the opportunity that ServiceNow can provide for people. That was knowledge. I'll pause it. I can talk way more about it. But that was knowledge. So let's get into. So you mentioned the university course.
Yeah.
It's another really special journey for me as well, because I graduated from University of Western Sydney. It was called UWS back then, as a single father, and I got tapped on the shoulder and invited to become a lecturer, the same university that I graduated from. So I was like, it was an honor to be able to go back and give back. I feel like it's my responsibility again, because ServiceNow has given me so many opportunities. But again, to walk into that university that I was a student of, to be able to teach that, quite a humbling and really, really special moment for me. And I love it. In my second semester now. And, we went from, there was the first time that the course was offered in the region, which is cool, right? So we had this nice group of, I think it was like 11 people. Yeah, it was really good, nice, close-knit class. And this semester we're at 26 or something like that. So you can really see, the trajectory there. And it's great. We have a really good cohort this year, and, everyone's really starting to understand SaaS and PaaS and the opportunities in that space. And ServiceNow being a leader, they really understand where it can take them. And again, for me, just to be a part of that journey is quite an honor to be able to be there and support them, and hopefully, see them as leaders in the ServiceNow space in the future. Yeah, it's really cool.
Brilliant. Well, what we're going to do now is pause for a moment, thank our partners and our sponsors, and then we're going to come back and go into the rapid fire. Ever spotted your dream client on LinkedIn only to find yourself bogged down in tedious data transfer at the expense of building that critical relationship? Say goodbye to manual tasks and hello to efficiency with Surfy, S-U-R-F-E. Surfy transforms you from a virtual assistant into a sales pro by seamlessly capturing, syncing, and enriching contacts from LinkedIn into your preferred sales platform, be it Salesforce, HubSpot, Pipedrive, Copper, or even Google Sheets, all in one single click. Imagine reclaiming those precious hours spent on data entry and redirecting them towards nurturing valuable connections and closing deals, which we all love to do. With Surfy, it's not just a dream, it's your new reality. Ready to invest your sales time where it truly matters? Try Surfy today by visiting our resource page at paulhigginsmentoring.com/resources and clicking on Surfy. Elevate your sales game with Surfy, because your success starts after the click. So, Merv, ready for the rapid fire?
Let's do it.
Really short, succinct answers to these questions. So, number one, what is some of the daily habits that you do to help grow Agiro?
Routine, right? Because as a founder and managing director, I just don't get to do ServiceNow all the time. If I don't get to do certain things in the morning, then my day just runs away from me, and I'm not able to focus on things that matter, right? Getting out there, talking to customers and helping them. I try to stick to a routine in the morning, get all the admin stuff done, and then it frees me up to be able to do all the fun stuff on ServiceNow.
Yeah, brilliant. And the next one is, where do you go to learn more about how you grow Agiro?
Absolutely. So obviously podcasts are a really good source of information. I'm very, very lucky to have a few mentors in my life that are in the ServiceNow space and also outside the ServiceNow space. Literally did it yesterday. I had a question about something I'd never done before. Call them up. Hey, what would you suggest, or what have you done? I strongly recommend anyone that's starting out or anyone that hasn't got a mentor, get one. It makes the world of difference, because you don't have to be out there by yourself trying to figure it out when someone's done it before. Yeah,
brilliant. And if we grant you one wish, what would that be?
As a small business owner, more customers.
More, to be honest, leads in the area.
More leads. But
quality
exactly right. More quality leads, but just to not to be too facetious about it, but stuff like this, Paul, I really appreciate you supporting people like myself, because these are the things that help get the message out there. These are the things that help get the brand out there. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and then look, it'd be great if there was a silver bullet that everyone took, but then we'd all be the same, right? So it's listening to these conversations, what helps you. And often what I'll do is I'll listen to a podcast in a particular space, and it's not the actual what the person's even saying at the time. It just sparks another thought, which then leads it to. So, yeah.
Exactly.
And the last thing is, you've been in it 12 years now. What do you know now that you wish you had known a lot earlier?
It's okay not to know.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned. I've sat in rooms with companies that are, sole traders.
Yes.
And on the other side of the table, $1 billion companies. everyone has the same journey. That person hasn't got it worked out. That person hasn't got it worked. And us as founders, or even people that work for large organizations that are getting into like a new manager role, people are working it out, and it's okay. It's okay to work it out. No one has all the answers straight away because you haven't done it before. Yeah. And that's what I wish I knew when I started to be able to be okay with my journey. Yeah, that's definitely one of it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, as I said, we've been talking to Merv Small, episode 568 from agiro.com.au. So thanks a lot for sharing your wisdom about ServiceNow and also your journey. And thanks for giving back in the way that you do, both on stage, but also here on our stage today. And in the I'll talk about where you can find out more and thank Merv in the outro. But thanks a lot for coming on today.
No worries, Paul. Really appreciate you having me on and being able for me to be able to share my story. Great to hear that I was the first ServiceNow person, but this is actually my first podcast. So I really appreciate that. That's awesome. Thank you very much, Paul.
That was a great interview with Merv, and sorry for some of the, the sound and also some of the video wasn't quite where we wanted it to be, but we can't control the internet. I'll reach out to Merv, thank him on LinkedIn. All the links are in the show notes. And also, if you've got people that are interested around ServiceNow, especially if they're in the Salesforce world, please share it with him. And also check both Merv and I out on the YouTube channel, Paul Higgins Mentoring. And I'd love your feedback on this podcast. Just go to paulhigginsmentoring.com/feedback. It's also in the notes. And just fill out a couple of questions. There's only 5. And I'll give you a wonderful gift as a thank you for doing that, because, I don't know who's listening. And I know if you're a regular listener, I'd love to hear from you. I'll see you next time on the Paul Higgins Show. Time for action. Let me know what you implemented from the show. I promise to respond. Plus, get the Tech Consultants Roadmap at paulhigginsmentoring.com/roadmap.